Hi, welcome. I'm Mary and I hook books. I crochet projects inspired by the audiobooks that I listen to. And this is going to be the Trans Rights Readathon wrap up. But this is a work in progress and I will tell you more about that. And we're filming this before work, so I'm not wearing any makeup because it will confuse my students. And if it's a little bit rambly, it's because I haven't had my coffee yet. So, the first book that I picked up for this readathon was Everyone on the Moon is Essential Personnel, and I think it's Julian K. Harbo or Jarbo. And this one was really cool. It had a lot of different like subgenres. It's a short story collection, and this wasn't so much like a gut punch as a bunch of little jabs here and there. Some of the stories were so short, like I almost missed it when I blinked, when I got distracted for 30 seconds and oh, we're on another story. And some were a little bit longer. And they were all over the place. There were fantasy elements, sci-fi elements. Of course, some of it's on the moon. Some of it's got some gods or like ye old fantasy gods and goddesses. So it was a really cool collection. Overall, I gave the whole collection a 3.5. Along with that short story collection, I also was reading An Unkindness of Ghosts, and this has wonderful characters and just amazing world building. And I really would recommend the audiobook because the different decks in this world ship have different accents, and it's really cool to hear those spoken out loud. And I did love particularly that one of her grandma's superpowers was untangling yarn like nobody's business, like it was nothing. And oh, oh, that is a superpower. If you're not a crafter, you don't understand. But the world building was so good, and the world was very dark and depressing. It almost put me in a reading slump. So, objectively, I would have to say this is like a 4 at least. The end did also feel a little bit rushed for me, but this isn't a plot heavy book. This is all about the characters and the world building. And the world building almost made me not want to keep going with reading at the moment. So for me personally, I just gave this a 3 star. But I would recommend it if you're a character or a world building reader. This is amazing. World ships and intergenerational ships are not my favorite sci-fi trope, so this already didn't have everything going for it for me as a reader, but it is really well written, so I can broadly recommend it, even though it wasn't my favorite. And then I read In the Watchful City, and when I finished this book, I needed to sit for a minute. I didn't quite know what to think. When I went into it, based on the book description, I was expecting Space 1984, but it was a little bit more Minority Report, and there were some different kind of alien elements. The planet it takes place on has 2 suns, so you knew you were in a completely different place, and it's much more a short story collection with an overarching kind of dystopian plot to it, which was really cool, and it let the author do some really interesting things. There were witches and mermaids and all sorts of cool elements. But there's also some trigger warnings that I did appreciate that the author just starts the book out with. So if you do need some of those, please do check those out. But it had so many different sci-fi elements that I really liked it. So I gave this one 3.75. And then I read Fina, and this is a device that off-brand IKEA has to deal with interdimensional wormholes that just magically randomly appear within their stores. And our 2 main characters, as the newest hires, have to go rescue this grandma that fell through a wormhole. And, they could say no, but they'd get fired. So, potentially loss of limb and life or lose your minimum wage job. And that's the economy we live in. So it's interesting. It's kind of a second chance romance, will they, won't they, between our two main characters, but it's not the biggest part of the plot. The world hopping is the fun part for me, and that was kind of the focus. It's a very short book. I didn't realize it was part of a series, so when the next book comes up at the library, I will be picking that up. And I gave this one 3.5 overall. The big win for me this week was Dreadnought, and I did not have the highest expectations for this because it was sold to me as YA, and YA can be really good, and it can also feel a little bit like it's pandering to what publishers and authors think teenagers want. And this was definitely one that transcends age groups. I would feel comfortable recommending this to my adult friends, and I would also recommend this to middle school and high school readers without any qualification. This is well written. I loved the characters so much. The plot was really fun. The family dynamic was maybe a little bit triggering, but it was so well done that it could elicit those realistic emotions from a reader. So this one I gave 4.5 stars. It does have a sequel. I think it's a duology, and that one is also free if you are an Audible Plus subscriber. So I will probably be picking that up in the near-ish future whenever I can. And hopefully the real winner is going to be the Dallas Hope Center. I got an email back from them. I need to get back in touch with them and work out some details, but they are going to accept some handmade gifts from me for donations, and they allow their residents to choose what they would like for their bedding. And if someone chooses the blankets that I make, they get to keep those, and if someone does not choose them, they're going to raffle off some Pride themed blankets that I'm making for fundraisers. So that's really cool. And I will try to actually take this to work so I can spread it out properly and show you guys how much progress I've made. I didn't make as much progress as I wanted to this week because I had some other projects that I also wanted to or had to get around to for other commitments. But I did get a good chunk of this done, and I think I'm going to use this pattern again because it comes in strips, so it's really easy to make flags out of. So I think my next one I'm going to make red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple for a rainbow flag, and then I'll move on to some other Pride themed blankets that I can donate to the Hope Center. And if you would like to donate to the Hope Center, I will leave their link in the description box down below. Again, they are our Dallas local homeless transitional living center for LGBTQ youth 18 to 24. They do work with the Dallas Hope Charities and the Hope Coalition, which is Dallas's only LGBTQ suicide prevention system. So if you can, I don't have a lot of expendable income, but I do have a lot of yarn that I have collected, and people do tend to donate yarn to me. So if you'd like to donate yarn to me, or if you'd like to donate to the Dallas Hope Centers, I will have my Buy Me a Coffee in the description, and I will have the links to the Dallas Hope Center in the description box as well. So I hope that you picked up some awesome trans books. What did you pick up for this readathon if you participated? And based on my recommendations, are you going to pick up any of the books that I read this week? I hope you have an amazing week, an amazing April, and just remember to breathe and keep your head up. Little postscript here. I took this to work and laid it out on one of our tables. It's currently 58 inches long by 27 inches wide. It's going to get a little bit wider when I put the border around the strips to connect the strips together. I was thinking about making it much bigger, but I think that would get away from me. And I think this is a perfect size for a twin bed or for wrapping around you on a cozy movie night, or if you just had a bad day and you need a metaphorical hug and a reminder that you are loved for who you are and you are perfect just the way you are.